Episodes of the Green Corn Rebellion Show are sponsored by Oklahoma Progress Now. Oklahoma Progress Now is a 501c4 organization focused on building progressive power in Oklahoma. Their primary efforts are on developing progressive content for a 21st century audience, coalition, and capacity building across progressive organizations and causes, and working to see elected leaders who are more responsive to their constituents and the needs of the many. Areas of focus include progressive messaging and communications, coalition building and resource sharing, and focused progressive policy goals. You can check out their Twitch live streams, and they go live on Facebook at noon, Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. Please support this organization. It's a really great organization. It's just getting started here in Oklahoma. Thank you. Now enjoy the rest of the video. Hello, this is the Green Corn Rebellion Show. Today I am here with my friend Tasneem AlMichael, who is the newly elected VP for College Democrats of America. How are you doing today?
I'm good. Actually, just got off of giving a presentation to a community gathering in Texas, had a rehearsal for a show that I'm actually in called, surprisingly, Good Trouble. And then before that, we ran a phone bank. So, it's a busy time. We're in the last 50 days of the election, and I'm doing everything we can to get us out there.
That's great. First question I have here is, where are you from and where did you grow up at?
So I'm from Oklahoma City. When my parents first came to this country, we lived on the east side for about the first 7.5 years. And then we transferred over to Putnam City District, which honestly, we're on the corner of 63rd and Expressway, and we've been there ever since. So right on the edge of the northwest side, because that's all we could afford. And so that's where my parents are still now. I got an apartment in Norman. But right now, here we are, just chilling.
That's cool. What got you interested into politics?
So, as an immigrant, my mom would always tell me, we're immigrants, we're Democrats. Democrats are always for immigration, which I found out later on down the line is not actually true. The truth is neither party is actually that great whenever it comes to immigration. But I always knew I was a Democrat. Obama was a very, very big deal for me. I've got a complicated relationship with that man. Half of it being I would not exist if he did not help put the DACA program there. But also deporting millions of immigrants. I don't, how do you win? But then it was 2016, and I think everyone remembers 2016. It was no, and I was like, oh man, I don't know what's gonna happen. My parents were just you just gotta keep doing what you're doing. And at some point, I just couldn't take it anymore. And I was depressed when I was at my university. It was a freshman year. I remember September 5th, 2017, it was yesterday. I can't believe that was 3 years ago. But I was asked by, I remember Vanessa Mraz and some other students whether I would like to speak on campus about my status of what it's like to be a DACA recipient. And I purely got into this accidentally. My name got thrown around the Council of American Islamic Relations and Dream Action Oklahoma, which I would say are the two nonprofit organizations that gave me my foundation for where I am right now. They held a joint press conference. I wasn't even there, but it happened. And I found myself in this documentary film called I Am DACA by Bill Helms. And it was there I met this woman named Jessica Vasquez, and she was the communications director for DAOK at the time. And she asked, hey, I need a public relations assistant. Now, I don't know anything about writing press releases or any of that sort of stuff. But really, that job turned into my first organizing job. she asked me, she said, "Hey, can you get like 50 people from across the state for this bus trip to DC?" And I was like, sure. And I'm 18 years old. I'm at OU. All I did was hit up like all the political people I knew. We had people from OPSU, from Tulsa, everywhere. And we did a bus trip all the way to DC. And I remember everyone looking at me just like, they don't take me seriously at first because I was like 18 years old telling these older people what to do. But I mean, it was truly my first learning experience. And I mean, I remember we were in DC for a week, and this was in December. And it was ever since then that I could not let go of this bug. And, you know, from there, I went back in January, got arrested for civil disobedience. And I mean, I will say this. I mean, yes, elections are one of the forms of power, but I think it's much more powerful when 1,000 young brown and black people shut down the U.S. government, the world's most powerful government. I can say that I was part of that. We didn't get the DREAM Act passed, but I went home and then I started working for Kendra, and that's kind of how my involvement in the Democratic Party started.
That's cool. I always wondered that because I just remember, I want to say it was 2018 when you and me came in contact. I think it was through Facebook or something like that. And I was like, who is this guy? He seems cool. So, yeah. So you've worked for Kendra. What else have you done since then?
So I worked for Kendra. I finished my job with her December 1st. I started my job as the deputy campaign manager for James Cooper, the campaign manager for Bria Clark, and the campaign manager for Amanda Sandoval December 2nd. And I know how to do this. Like, I was like, my first try, I can do this. And oh my God, it was like one of the hardest things I've ever done. I was driving between 3 cities every day while I was still in school. And also having to run a mayoral election of your college town, a city council election in Oklahoma City, and then also with Amanda, you know, she's a young Latinx woman in the most conservative part of Oklahoma County, which is Bethany. And we got her there. I was actually very blessed. And it's like, this is what happens when you put in the work. And, you know, all 3 of those seats won. We got a Democrat mayor. We got the first half black, half white, LGBTQ, like openly gay city councilor, who, by the way, is a film and art buff. Mm-hmm. And then also the youngest, like, and first brown lady to be on the Bethany City Council, where, you know, we have a growing Latinx population, and that's working for her community and her folks. So, like, it's about building that bench. And so, you know, from there, I saw that we didn't have a college Democrats in Oklahoma, or at least we did, but it wasn't organized. We had like this loose confederation almost, like people know, but they don't really know. And so I had gotten into contact with Josh, and, you know, Josh and Seisha, I met them all throughout Kendra's campaign. I was like always asking them to do stuff, and they were just like, who is this annoying little kid? But I stuck around because I wanted to make it work, and I became the interim president in January of that year, and I started doing my work in February. And I was invited. Josh had connected me with Ethan Smith, who was the director of membership at the time. He went to a Kansas Young Dems convention, and Ethan Smith gave me a call, and he was like, "Yo, you want to go to the APAC convention?" I was like, "What?" Because this time, you know, all the stuff about Ilhan Omar and stuff, like, you know, and also me being a Muslim American, like a very visible and active Muslim American, he was like, "You want to go to the APAC convention?" I'm like, "You know, I'm Muslim, right?" And he's like, "Yeah." I mean, this is just like an excuse for like college students to just kind of, and I mean, can I curse on this podcast or
yes, no? Yes, you can. Yes, you can.
To fuck around and just like and be in DC, which I mean, which this is how special interest groups work. And this is a very smart model. I'm not even gonna lie. Like, what they do is they fly out every single college Dems and college Republicans president and SGA president as well as their chapters. And I was like, I wish we had organizations that would do that for us. And I went, and like, the influence, like, it was one of the most massive conventions I've ever been to, even bigger than the Oklahoma Democratic Party convention. This was in DC, and I got to meet Bill de Blasio, and I got to see all these people, and back then, and this is how college Dems used to like take meetings, is these groups would take them because the DNC doesn't pay for them. And so, we had meetings on the Hill. We got to go to the speaker's office. We got to meet with Doug Jones, and that was a really big deal too. And as we know, he's up for re-election. Actually, earlier we had a call with Doug Jones.
Oh, that's cool.
For his phone bank. And so it was kind of like that. And so I came back home, and I put myself to work, also with like Oklahoma Intercollegiate Legislature. I started working at the Capitol. I believe, our second youngest person working at the Capitol, and one of two Muslims working at the Capitol, and one of two South Asians working at the Capitol. I was legislative assistant I got a call from Chelsea Branham. And when I say like life is fast paced, I mean, I was a week in California for my cousin's wedding, and I came to Oklahoma for one day. I went to DC for a week, and then I had OIL as soon as I got back. And she had asked me, like, I need to know soon. And so I was the LA for Marilyn Bell, which, if one of your members is Black or African American, you're automatically deputized and drafted into working for the Black Caucus. So they didn't tell me that, but that was a big job. And we had an entire gala to plan by the end of the whole year. But I mean, here we are. And I learned a lot in that process too, of like how our government works. Like, Democrats you have to realize that as our state, even though we're a super minority, we still pass legislation because it's popular. And people like that stuff. And so I realized, how the process worked. Before I was in LA, I was a Senate messenger. And so I was working in the Senate. Life comes full circle. I had the marijuana unity bill in my hands. Like I took it from the Senate and took it over to the House, literally. Because that's what they do. Like, that's the process. And I mean, and we'll talk about this later, but I am opening up my own dispensary in Edmond. And so it's just like literally being able to see this from start to finish, and how I put myself in this case is so crazy. I got to sit on the Senate floor and watch them in action. And then I became this LA. And once I finished my job as an LA, it was, you guessed it, Oklahoma Democratic Convention time. And so, with the Young Dems, we pulled that together. We threw like one of the most like baller Young Dems parties I could have imagined. I remember Deb Holland's chief of staff was there, and they were just like, "Man, why don't we do this in New Mexico?" It's like, well, we do it better in Oklahoma. Like, y'all are seeing. And so after that, I started working for Generation Citizen, which is a nonprofit based out of Oklahoma City. Which, I mean, if you know anything about me, I'm a big believer that young people do not have to wait their turn to take control of their circumstances. And one of the things that Generation Citizen teaches is they go into the classroom and they teach action-based civics, meaning we're not just doing, learning history. We're showing you how to directly take control of your circumstances. They have a civics fair, which is like a science fair, and they've actually had bills turned into law. And to see like 14, 16, 18-year-old kids put this together, they're not kids. I mean, frankly, and you know what? I mean, I call myself a kid still because that just proves that older people don't know what they're doing. But that's where we really came from there. At the same time, I ran for the National College Caucus and the Young Democrats of America, which is a separate thing than College Dems of America. But within College Caucus, I mean, all we had to do was roll up with our team, and we had like 15 Oklahoma people, and there was barely anybody in the caucus. And I was like, "But this is dumb." So I ran, and we had our team, and we had the votes, and so I get to sit on that committee. I also ran for National Council Chair of College Dems, and the reason as to why is because I saw that our organization had so much more potential to actually do what it needed to do, but we wanted to stay restricted to what was within our confines. Like we always talked about, like, how do we fund chapters when the DNC doesn't give us our own independent fundraising capabilities? Well, you have to think outside the box. I was like, well, I'll set up a PAC. Like, you know, this is what we did. And a lot of people were just like, I just don't know if we can do that. And it's just like, well, you haven't tried. And I will say this, like, it was really funny because, you know, I ran, like, this was my first campaign I had run for myself. And, you know, I was really lucky. I met Stacey Abrams, and I honestly, that was the sign that I knew that I was going to lose, because Stacey Abrams and I were like holding hands and talking to each other. I got to present. I actually got to introduce Congresswoman Rashida Tlaib, and, you know, we were in Louisiana, first time on Bourbon Street. I had an amazing time, but, you know, we had the most unregulated election that you could probably ever think of. Like, this was 2 DNC seats up for grabs, and we didn't even know what the results of the votes were. We just knew who the winners were. And then they also showed the votes. And I was even told, like, 10 minutes before the election results, I had won. And I was like, the hell? And that's how you knew something was wrong. And I was like, honestly, and then I, like, you know, the president has sent me a picture of me and Stacey afterwards. And I was like, yeah, I see what happened here. So, and I was bitter. I was like, my own organization, national organization, who I had put so much work into, had spat me out because, and I just keep forgetting, this was in September. We also hosted 2 presidential candidates before that. On the first day of school at OU, we had Beto O'Rourke. You know, and that's something that I could say that I was proud of, because, like, you know, 25% of our population is Texas. And so it was like, you know, it was truly amazing that I got to introduce somebody of such high quality and character, and that the mayor that I helped elect also got to introduce Beto O'Rourke. And it was just like, wow. And it's incredible to see all these people in this process. Later that month, we had Cory Booker, and it was just so crazy. But, you know, with Cory Booker, we even went all out. You know, we got T-shirts for everybody. We had JB and Linka open, and I had to learn a lot from that event, because I took all of it on and did a lot of it by myself. I made a lot of mistakes in that one. I remember I was supposed to go to a friend's wedding party, and I went home, and I was so exhausted that, like, I threw up everywhere and passed out, and I've never done that before. And I realized, okay, this is where we have to set a boundary for ourselves. And, you know, and then after, literally the week after Cory Booker, we went to Louisiana, and we came back home, and I was like, I'm really tired. I don't want to keep working. But we did, and we continued to do so. And I would say it was by the time, like, December came around, I focused on that job mostly, but December came around, and Elizabeth Warren was in town. And, you know, literally it was, I had moved, we were supposed to go to New York. This was before COVID, right? This is before COVID. And my mom and my dad, for the first time in 20 years, they went back to Bangladesh, and they stayed for like a month. And we was like, well, we need to stay somewhere. And so the first time that I actually got to experience New York, before we left New York, I got to see Elizabeth Warren with some of my closest friends in the progressive community. And honestly, and here's the thing, we're all Bernie people, but we were still there to see our gal. You know, Northwest Classen is just down the street from where I live, back home. And so to see, like, a teacher really put a lot of that work together, and also being right in front. By the way, she pointed directly at us whenever she was talking about speech and debate, because we went off. I was like, oh shit, speech and debate. And she was like, the nerd crowd. And I was like, I like guys with Elizabeth Warren. And that was cool. And then what's crazy is that I've, like, been in the same room as her 6 times, and not once have I got my photo with her. And, like, that was so crazy to me. Like, it was wild. And here's the thing, now we have to back it up just a little bit, because I skipped to December. I totally forgot. October was one of the most momentous occasions of my life. I was flown out. I went to DC twice in October. Once for the J Street conference, which, if we say that APAC is the center, then J Street is the center left when it comes to things regarding Palestine and Israel. Because I wanted to see what they had to say. And again, I happened to be one of the only Muslims at that convention because I wanted to know what was going on. And like actually there, I realized you can cut security assistance to thousands of countries as leverage to force peace on people. It's winning without war. And that's something that I learned from that convention. I learned a lot being up there. And then 1 week break, and then the next week I was back in DC with United We Dream, the organization I work for now. We filed a lawsuit at the Supreme Court level. I had the privilege of being in an amicus brief. Basically, I can say that I sued the president and I won. We went 1-0 at the Supreme Court level. They included me in the first digital amicus brief. And so to think that Ruth Bader Ginsburg and the other guy who hates abortion had watched my story, and to see it come full circle this past July as us winning in a conservative environment truly makes me believe that we can do absolutely anything. I had went to New York in December. I had spent 2 weeks there. I fulfilled a dream of mine. I went to the New Yorican Cafe and got to perform at an open mic, and I got to experience a lot of what New York had to offer. And right before, and actually I actually went on a Tinder date with somebody who was part of their DSA because I wanted to see what it was like. And I was like, oh, okay, the DSA up here is definitely different than DSA. And it was wild, and like it was crazy, and it was, and I had a good time. Actually, Joshua Harris Till was in New York at the same time too, because. You know, and I got to see the Bloomberg office because I got an offer from the Bloomberg campaign, but I turned it down. And for me, it was like my morals are generational poverty, and I got to see, you know, what they had to offer, and truly, it's amazing to see what somebody can do with money. And before I got to leave New York, I got to see Elizabeth Warren and Julian Castro in not the Bronx, but in Brooklyn at one of their historic theaters. And that was truly amazing. I got to take my cousin with me to this experience, and we got to see, you know, something so amazing. Imagine what they could have been but their stories aren't over. We come back, and I was consulting for a few different candidates at the time that I'm no longer doing work for. I think you remember Wesley Forbes and Emily Tyndall and Kyle. And I was doing some work for them, but, you know, things just didn't work out. There was some drama, and, you know, things happen. And so in that capacity, actually, as that wrapped up, COVID happened. And so it was kind of like just one thing right after the other. And I will say this, COVID, I mean, you know, being unemployed, and, you know, it got to the point, you know, my folks, you know, we're working class folks, but we couldn't even bring money back from Bangladesh. Really what ended up happening is, like, you know, it almost got to the point where my apartment's pantry was almost out, and I was so afraid of asking my friends and my folks for money. And then unemployment finally got here. And honestly, I was making more than I was making when I was consulting. And it made me realize, I was like, oh yeah, no, like universal basic income should be a thing, 100%, because, you know, people get thrashed around by life. I can only imagine the folks who didn't get it. Like, I got a stimulus check and my college friends did not. And that stimulus check and the unemployment together, you know, it helped me. It really did. And I put that, and the thing is, people know that I'm a grinder, that I put work in. And so my dad, during the month of COVID, approached me and he was like, I want to start a dispensary. And I was like, you're kidding me. And I was like, I want to start a growery. But, you know, now we're in alignment, and we talked about starting this dispensary. And truly, it is an amazing experience because, like, I did use a lot of that money to research marijuana. I even took classes online. I took music classes online, and I rediscovered who I was before politics. In those 2 months, I really also wanted to get my body and health in order because one of my uncles had died of COVID within the first few weeks. And I was like, I need to fix this. Like, I want to be here. And if you can take a look at pictures of me back then, you can take a look at pictures of me now, and 40 pounds ago, here we are. And it's just a matter of us, like, putting in that work. I was lucky enough to be able to use that money to study, and now here we are creating a dispensary. And it was in the middle of COVID that, as we know, George Floyd happened. And, being on the Young Democrats of Oklahoma board, we could not sit back while all of this was happening. Being an undocumented person myself, like, I understand what it means to defund and abolish not just the police, but this complex that we have, right? This military industrial complex. And the thing is that it's not just about, like, defunding police. It's turning the police into something else. Like, we're not talking about getting rid of protection. Everyone wants to feel protected. I want to feel protected. You want to feel protected. But imagine if it's a social worker who shows up, who understands how self-defense works, rather than somebody who's in a paramilitary outfit. What does that normalization look like? And so it was just event after the event. We just had to get groups together, and people showed up. And at that point, I was still afraid. About being, but we had put ourselves as organizers, even somebody who's undocumented, between us and the police, so that our protesters were not hurt. And eventually, I was reached out by one of my friends to apply for this job with United We Dream as the National Civic Engagement Training Manager. In short, my job is to teach young people what tools they need to win this election. And not just this election, but how to mobilize our base. A base isn't just for candidates, it's our people. It's about empowering our community. And I was very fortunate, and I'm very lucky and happy to say, like, this is the job that I have. Like, it's like doing what I have to do with Kendra, except with 8 different states now, across the country, and mobilizing brown and black people across the country. And it is the heaviest job that I've had to do. But it's also wild to say that I'm doing all of this right from my home. I'm from here in the Zoom universe, right? Over the summer, of course, summer vacation is all about hanging out with friends. And I'll throw a shout out to OK State Stand United. They did it right. I was able to say that, I was happy to help them organize their first protest, and I'm really happy to see that the fruits of their labor is coming together. They got their action plan, and where it took a whole week and a struggle with OU, they got it done and right on the first day, because OSU was not ready. And I'm happy to say that these people are in my life, and that I was able to help contribute to their story. And so even at student, and this is how that student activism is the way of the future. It is all about these local campaigns. In the midst of all of this, we asked why College Democrats of America didn't do anything about George Floyd, didn't do anything about what we can do to empower our black community. And also why a college Dems board, where people should be younger and more progressive, was racist to our only black member of the board. And so for the first time in College Democrats, history for a while, I'm going to say the first time actually, but I will say this is the first time in a long time that all 50 states kind of came together to call people out on their bullshit. And we did do a coup d'etat. That's what a revolution means. Like, we push people out because they did not do their jobs. And so that's how I knew that it's just like, okay, we can do this here. These are 2 DNC seats, and we took control of that. We put up an interim board. My friend Gabby, who was one of the co-chairs of the Black Caucus, and everyone knows that, don't mess with me because I will call you out right then and forward. And I like to be everyone's friend. We were on the Executive Reform Committee, and we were seriously grappling with the idea. Like, she was like, what do you want to run for? I was like, listen, there's 2 places I need to be in. This organization can't do anything unless we have money and also some administrative, like some tools. And I said either vice president or the director of development. And right then and there, Gabby was like, all right, we're doing this, but VP. And so we ran, and nobody filed against us because they trusted us that much. Gabby, she's a Warren stan, and I'm a Bernie stan. I mean, I'm an abolitionist, but we play off of each other because we have to bring everyone together. I realize that College Democrats of America is not the Democratic Party. This is our organization. We have seats, but at the end of the day, we do what we want to do. We have our own way of going about who knows how to mobilize college students other than college students, right? And so, things got very real. This past week, I got I'll show you right here, I got my DNC membership form. And this is crazy. I never thought an undocumented person such as myself would be in this position because, my own state took away my delegate spot for being a delegate for Bernie Sanders and also a delegate to the state convention. And now look at where we are. Now I have to, I believe, with Josh, they seated him because he's a national officer at the Democratic Party. I'm a national officer now too, so we better make sure there's not a double standard. I'm going to be gunning for making, we talk about how our central committee always fights with each other. I'll do my best is all I can say, but people know that I'm here to work. So where we are right now, where the story, comes full circle is like in October, at the end of the month, I'm planning on opening this dispensary. I'm releasing some music as well. We have a concert actually October 31st on the east side. It's a socially distant concert, but we're going to try and get as many people out to the state election board for early voting. We want to make it the biggest event in Oklahoma possible. And it truly is going to take all of us. Everybody wants my attention now. I just got added to the Students Against ICE group, and there's like 300 people, and I was like, holy crap, this is so coincidental. But the base is here. Young people are taking a hold of their circumstances. And my job as a leader is not to tell people what to do, it's to facilitate. It's to let people know, hey, we've done this before. This is a continuation of the civil rights movement. For me, the Democratic Party is not the only answer to my liberation. It is simply a tool and a step in the way to help build our power. Because truly, this government was not designed for me. And yet here we are making it happen. I can't vote, but how many people have we got elected? I can't vote, but how many ballot initiatives have we put down and advocated for? Just because, you don't have a piece of paper does not necessarily, or a title, does not mean you do not have the ability to make change. There are no excuses. It is simply about putting in the work and talking to those you know. Because let me tell you this about Oklahoma. We're 1 degree of separation from everybody. And truly, if you know one person, they probably know somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody. I really just want to use, because I'm in a place of privilege right now, as a South Asian, undocumented, brown, Muslim man, I can say that I'm in a place of privilege right now where I can help people. I don't want anyone to have to go through the same things that I had to in order to get here. It should not be that hard. And I also shouldn't be the only one doing this work. So that's where we are. That's kind of what my story and how I ended up being in this process. As you can see, there's a lot of ups and downs that comes with this, right? Especially on social media, we share with people what we want to share. Because, as an organizer, you've got a really bad imposter syndrome. But the difference is between what makes you a good organizer and what makes you the greatest organizer is when you start to own your shit. And that, I will say, is the lesson I want to leave with people. Own your shit, own your power. Understand that, you are in control of the circumstances, not these politicians. And I'll say this to Donald Trump. He calls me a criminal and a gangster. Well, then from one criminal to another, I cannot wait for you to have a lot of rehabilitation. Because let's just say this, it took me 21 years for me to even realize and have confidence in myself to this extent. What's it going to take for other people? Right? So that's where we are.
All right. I have about three different questions left here. So what are some things you'd like to accomplish as VP of College Democrats of America?
So we have a lot of room. Like literally anything we do is going to help our states because we actually are going to communicate with them. The biggest problem that we have is miscommunication. I mean, earlier today I was on the phone with the California College Dems president, and we asked like, what can we do to perfect this relationship? Gabby asked that question, and she had said that literally you guys just reaching out to us made the difference, right? We're talking to everybody. We're doing our jobs. We are decentralizing power from the executive side and putting it into our national council, which is the states. You know, the states are the ones who are supposed to tell us what to do. We just are supposed to have the skills to be able to implement it. Um, as a state president myself, I had to go through all of those challenges, and you know, as much help as the trips are fun and everything, but what can you give to my students? And not even just like, what does it mean to be a college Democrat? You just have, it is being a student who believes in democratic ideals or is registered or even an independent. And it is about talking to them. If I am not employing the absolute basic unit, which is the individual, then the entire foundation is faulty. So it's getting them their tools. I mean, I'm submitting a budget. You know, we're actually asking for money. We're fundraising. We are doing everything that it takes because we're professionals. We've done this before.
All right. Last, I guess this is kind of two questions. But first question is, what kind of music do you listen to?
I love this question. Okay. I do listen to a lot, like everything, because like I think as a musician, in order for you to be well rounded, you got to pick up different pieces. I like rap rock, like that is my big thing. I really want to. This has already existed, but Desi rap and Desi pop has all, which is like South Asian diaspora infused music, has always existed. But for some reason in America, we just didn't make it popular, right? We have the Latinx communities with Bad Bunny, and we also have all of these other groups. Well, Bengalis, we are the second largest ethnic population in the world, and we're all over the place, and yet for some reason, we aren't all over the place, or our faces aren't painted all over the place. Well, it's time to make that happen. And so that's the sort of music that I'm making, that I'm really into. I'm really big into anthems, right? I like to hear what, like, you know, different, what the calls are looking like from different communities. And as an organizer, for me, it just makes sense. Actually, Greg, I'll send you the track whenever I'm done, whenever that's coming together. My office in Moore, right next door, we have this place called Lunar. And it is a small business that also has a recording studio, and so we're going to be like putting all of it down. If you come in, there's guitars everywhere. It's a very me store, and so I'll say this: I even like country. Not even going to lie. My favorite country song is "Cruise" and "Florida Georgia Line." So not even real country. It's like country pop. So I mean, okay, it's real country. I just have a note here from my assistant that says that's not even good country, but I beg to differ. So that's where I'm at right now. Because I mean, look at my handles on the internet. It's Daisy Cowboy. It just makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, whenever I tell people, like, I usually tell people I don't like country, but if I were to, like, listen to country, it'd probably be Florida Georgia Line, and they look at me, they're like, yeah, you would say that. They're like, yeah, the guy who listens to Limp Bizkit would totally listen to Florida Georgia Line.
Why not? Why not?
Yeah,
Like you never know.
yeah.
Also in a musical. At the end, it's a Zoom musical, and it's called Good Trouble. It's based off of the teachings of John Lewis, of course, but it is truly about activists and organizers. I play this character named Amen, who, by the way, is just me. It's a high energy 20-year-old South Asian Muslim American. And I was like, cool. Like, they sent it to me, and like, and here we are. And so hopefully that'll be coming out soon. November 1st is whenever that'll drop. So.
All right. Well, thank you so much for coming on. Where can we find you on social media? And do you have anything you want to plug specifically?
I will. I think I've plugged everything that I possibly could. Um, but in terms of what my thing looks like, you could go to links. So that's links.co/TAS. And that you can find every single one of my social media links there, from my Instagram to my Twitter, Snapchat, etc.
All right. Have a good night.
Appreciate it, Greg. Thank you so much. See ya.